tense White House meeting, US President Donald Trump confronted South African President Cyril Ramaphosa with discredited claims of a so-called white genocide. Trump played a video alleging White House farmers are being killed and forced to flee South Africa. Let's listen in to the US President.
A lot of people are very concerned with regard to South Africa, and that's really the purpose of the meeting, and we'll see how that turns out. But we have many people that feel they're being persecuted, and they're coming to the United States. So we take from many locations if we feel there's persecution or genocide going on. And we had a lot of people. I must tell you, Mr. President, we have had a tremendous number of people, especially since they've seen this. Generally, they're white farmers, and they're fleeing South Africa, and it's it's a very sad thing to see. But I hope we can have an explanation of that, because I know you don't want that.
Ramaphosa firmly denied these accusations, stating South Africa does not support land sieges from white farmers and the government condemns violence of any kind. Trump, undeterred, said he wanted an explanation of the farmer situation, but Ramaphosa stood firm, pointing to democracy and diverse voices in South Africa, while urging Trump to listen to facts and not fiction. Here's what the South African president had to say.
Take President Trump listening to the voices of South Africans, some of whom are his good friends, like those who are here. When we have talks between us on around a quiet table, it will take President Trump to listen to them. I'm not going to be repeating what I've been saying. I would say if there was Afrikaner farmer genocide, I can bet you these three gentlemen would not be here, including my Minister of Agriculture. He would not be with me.
Despite the ambush, Ramaphosa called the meeting very well and used the opportunity to push for a reset in US-South Africa relations. He stressed the importance of trade, investment and job creation to tackle poverty and crime. Ramaphosa also invited Trump to visit South Africa to continue discussing tariffs and critical minerals. We're now joined by Andrew Latham, Professor of International Relations at Macalester College and Senior Fellow located in St. Paul, Minnesota. Thank you very much, Andrew, for joining us on the program today. A seemingly second coordinated ambush by the US president. What are your initial thoughts when you saw this? A TV was rolled in. He asked for the lights to be dimmed. Are future leaders going to be concerned about something like this happening to them now? It's the second time this has happened.
Yes, well, it wasn't quite as bad as the Zelensky episode a month or so back, but it was President Trump both reflecting and playing to an element of his base, which is convinced that there's a white genocide taking place in South Africa. And so it looked like it might have gone pear-shaped pretty quickly, but it didn't, because both the South African president and the American president recognize that in a multipolar world in which the US is competing with China in all kinds of ways, the South Africans would like to be not entirely in the United States orbit, but they would like investment, and they would like some kind of counterbalance to Chinese influence in Africa. And of course, the United States would really like to balance China in Africa, but also access to critical minerals and rare earth elements. And so at the end of the day, interests prevailed rather than delusions. And it looks like a reset in the relationship between these two countries. And maybe for the first time, President Trump has a very, how should I put this? He's used some vulgarities in the past talking about African nations. And so this is a bit of a reset for him too, I think, recognizing that South Africa is really actually quite important in terms of American national interests, both economic and geopolitical.
Yes, and Andrew, these claims of a white genocide have been are widely disputed. Some even call them conspiracy theories. Trump has brought them to the highest office in America. Some would say the most powerful office in the world. What do you think of this? How do you analyze that? He is certainly putting these theories on a platform. What are your views?
Well, the reality on the ground in South Africa, of course, is that in post-apartheid South Africa, there's been land reform, and there have been winners and losers, but there's been no violence or arbitrary actions. There's a legal regime that has been put in place by the post-apartheid South African government to reform land ownership. I'm sure there have been some quote unquote losers in that process. And I'm sure some of them have fled to the United States and the United Kingdom and Canada and elsewhere. But there is no white genocide. That's madness. And yet the part of the MAGA base in the US continues to believe that there's a white genocide going on. Of course, it's consistent with a lot of their other crazy ideas. I don't know how else to put it. And so, as I said earlier, Trump both reflects that view and is playing to that part of his base. But at the end of the day, and here's the promising, optimistic part of this story, at the end of the day, basically, shook hands with Ramaphosa and said, let's do business. Let's do business, literally, in terms of economics, and metaphorically in terms of geopolitics. And so I think President Trump was gesturing towards his base, but at the end of the day recognized that there were other issues that, I was going to say trumped, superseded those domestic political imperatives.
Andrew Latham, thank you very, very much.